Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial. Go to audibletrial.com/Rushmore. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Greetings and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff, and I'm joined as always by my good buddies Richard.
Hello.
And Michael.
Howdy. Richard
and Michael, you know how they do. They always at each other's throats. They always attack each other. They always try to...
Get a restraining... Wait a second. We don't need a judge to break this up. We need some cops.
Or a ref, an actual ref.
And I'm here to get them to have a full mouth, open tongue kiss before the day is over.
I'm game if you
okay.
want.
All right, that's fine. It's the double aughts, or whatever we're calling them now.
Thanks for keeping an open mind. This episode is about the Mount Rushmore of It's the End of the World as We Know It, and I Feel Fine. Michael, you chose it. Explain.
This is a song that has just a lot of kind of disparate...
words?
Yeah,
just a lot of words.
Just things that just jump out throughout the song. It's this kind of stream of consciousness type song. I think there's ultimately a theory or a story behind it or a meaning to it, but listening to it, REM is just, I think, a great band.
Right.
And Michael Stipe is a really great lyricist who kind of touches on a lot of different things and is all over the place. And some of his stuff is kind of a lot more poetic than others. And this one is just so frenetic that it seemed like, oh, we can go so many different places with either the lyrics or just ideas of the song or whatever. And it seemed like it was a good doorway to talking about an interesting song, a fun song.
Yeah.
But see where two dopes kind of have their ideas about this song.
Yeah.
And this is a song that I know that was a very stream of consciousness type song for him to write. And God knows it comes out in the lyrics.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I think, a little bit of our stab to sort of pick out some of the interesting bits from the song, whether lyrically or otherwise. Mm-hmm. And got to go with it.
As a podcast that dissects some elements of popular culture or history, this is perfect because it has all of that and more.
Has all of that and more, yeah.
Richard, jump in.
LEONARD BERNSTEIN!
Nice.
That's my first pick. That's probably the one line that, if you know no other line from the song, you know that one part where they shout
LEONARD BERNSTEIN!
And in terms of Leonard Bernstein, it's just, we're never going to have a classical music conductor or composer who is as famous in his time as any pop or rock musician was. That's what Leonard Bernstein was.
Yeah.
You know, in the 50s, 60s, through the 80s, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's amazing that there was someone doing what he did who was this, pop culture icon.
Yeah.
I, like a lot of people, I remember watching him as a kid doing the thing where he would, like the young people's concerts.
Yeah.
Where he would sit there and they'd do Peter and the Wolf, and he would break down, like, now the flutes are playing the part of this animal, and really breaking down, bit by bit, sort of how classical music actually worked. And any sort of love I have for classical music probably can be directly traced to
LEONARD BERNSTEIN!
There's only two really important conductors. It's him and it's Bugs Bunny dressed up as Leopold.
Yes.
Right? Those two, and then that's it.
I can't think of any others.
Good. Okay.
One thing that back, I think it was like 68 or 69, somewhere around there, he had a CBS TV special about the new music. And it was just all about rock and roll. Jeff, I don't know if have you seen this yet?
I've seen the Beach Boys. I've seen the Brian Wilson segment of it.
Okay, yeah, and it's basically an opening segment with him, and then there's 2 or 3 segments that's basically trying to talk to the squares about this new rock and roll music and where it's going and all the hippie stuff, right? But the first segment is basically about 10 minutes of him at a piano talking about these rock and roll songs that he likes and why he thinks it's relevant and important. And a lot of them are Beatles songs. He was known to be a proponent of the Beatles, not just as musicians, but real innovators. And it's him sitting there at the piano talking about why something like Gotta Get You Into My Life is something that, even if you're not a rock fan, if you're a parent of a kid who is a rock fan, why you should appreciate this. I was alone. I took a ride. I didn't know when I would find there. And he would like talk about why that little change, the key change there between those two parts, why that was so important. And we're never going to have anybody like that again. We're so culturally devoid now, you guys. We don't have anyone. I can't think of anyone who's like a culture, a figure of actual like culture.
He's kind of like the Neil deGrasse Tyson
Sure.
of explaining things, except Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of comes off as an asshole these days.
You think so?
There's some. I think he has a good heart,
And a large one.
although I'm sure that he would explain scientifically whether a large heart is good or bad for you.
Right.
That's the kind of thing that Neil deGrasse Tyson does.
He's starting to get into that where
He's a little too over-explaining and like he's lost the... we get it.
where every science movie that comes out, he has to be the a-hole who sits there and tells you why gravity was such a... None of this could have possibly happened in this movie. It's like, come on.
Well, it seems like he's building bridges to you and the scientific world, whereas Bernstein was building bridges between youth and adult culture of the time.
Yeah.
Generations.
Yeah, even though he was
Yeah.
someone who was of the parents' generation,
Yeah.
he was somebody who came from a musical background that was certainly, he was, I think mentored by Aaron Copland, for example. He was not somebody who was of that era, but he was somebody who could say, look, it was somebody who had credibility with the parents as well.
Yeah, and he's not just an entertainer; he himself was composer of that music too. Did he do Candide or
Candide, which my family just went to go see and liked it a lot. Of course, obviously West Side Story. And in terms of trying to place this in the context of this song, there's the 4 LB initialed people who are named in this song.
Yeah.
And I won't name them all because we may get to at least one more of them at some point here.
Lane Bryant.
Lane Bryant's one of them, absolutely.
Michael Stipe shopped at Lane Bryant back in those days.
And
They did wear clothes a little baggier then.
Yeah, they
and
were.
he was a lithe guy.
He was the Moby of his day. And I'm thinking about Leonard Bernstein in terms of the context of Michael Stipe and why that may have been sort of referenced at the time. We got like marimbas going on here in the background, you guys. It's where we're doing a live broadcast at the Jungle Cruise at Disneyland, by the way.
The new studio might be haunted because we have heard like this ghost cat outside.
Right.
We've heard like a creepy, Jack in the Box.
We hear an airplane now, but that's just an airplane.
That's your standard airplane. But we heard like this ghostly, round and around the mulberry bush sort of thing happening, and then we heard. Yeah, the marimbas. It's getting weird out there.
Kind of freaky over here. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So why did this maybe come to Michael Stipe's head when he's doing the Stream of Consciousness song? One thing is, I don't think this is probably why, but I find it interesting that Michael Stipe was living as an artist, a public figure, certainly at that point in the late 80s, as a gay man, but trying to hide that or not talk about that or kind of keep that compartmentalized. And that's something that Leonard Bernstein did as well.
Oh, didn't know.
He was gay, but was married and had 3 kids, and did not. I don't even know that he was ever out.
Yeah.
But he was, after his wife died, he went to go move in with his boyfriend.
Oh,
but it was always that kind of like compartmentalizing sort of thing. He was married, but and they were in love, but they weren't. And they had kids, but he was still gay.
yeah.
And I just find that interesting that Michael Stipe would choose somebody like that when at the time he was certainly, I think, going through similar issues in his own life as he was becoming more famous and having to deal with what the ramifications would be if he came out. In the
I
late
think
80s.
if he were to explain that to all the kids at the MTV Beach House party while he was singing it,
Right.
that they all would have been more enlightened into the meaning of the song and its place as a overview of the second half of the 20th century.
Well, I remember when they were on Yo MTV Raps
Would
with
Michael
the song
Stipe-
Radio Song, by the way.
Would Michael Stipe have been a lot more fun if, like, if at the MTV Music Awards, if he took off all those shirts, kept taking them off, and if he got down to like a tight top, and he's just like, "Hey,
Let's party!
let's party."
He was a tank top like me. Oh, it's cool. I love that deep dive, and you could have picked any of all the LB names, and that was a good one to start with.
We're gonna get into that. It's very interesting because my first pick is the stream of consciousness of this song and where it kind of came from, and we'll touch base on all 4 LB names, even though one may come up later. Richard.
Sure.
I guess part of his songwriting came out of like this dream state, or part of it was this dream that he had where he was invited to a party where he was the only person there whose name didn't begin with LB. It was like a party for Lester Bangs.
Oh, wow.
In his dream, it was the
Leo Biscaya, the hugging doctor.
Leonard Bernstein, Lenny Bruce, and Leonid Brezhnev.
Okay.
And so in his dream, he was the only person, and talk about feeling out of place. And I'm always interested in the way that songs...
Oh, hi, Lisa Bonet. Sorry, it took me long enough to get that.
You guys,
that's time centric. That's fine.
you guys out there, if you have an LB celebrity that you think would fit in, just feel free to reach out to us on social media and let us know.
Is Fleetwood Mac coming? Nah, just Lindsey Buckingham. Sorry.
I bet he was there in his dream party. I'm always interested in how songs are written, whether they start with music or whether they start with lyrics. And I never understand songs that come out of music. Like if someone writes like, "Oh, this is," because I don't obviously I don't play music. I barely understand music. I like to listen to it.
Sure.
But I don't know how to write it. So I'm always interested when a song comes out of
A melody gives birth to...
Yeah, I don't understand it. But something like this, I feel like I can relate to. That are just like these random thoughts, the stream of consciousness, and the song is just overflowing with just like images and things that he saw. This is the only bit of research I did for this episode.
Okay.
He gave an interview to GQ about writing the song, and he talked about how this is a song built on just these images that I see on TV, here on the radio, or just day to day, or in my dreams, and all of it's kind of meshed into one.
Yeah.
And as you listen to it, it kind of feels like someone that's just kind of like spewing forth and expecting you to know what he's talking about. Do the kids know who Leonard? The kids. Do the kids know who Leonard Bernstein is? Could be. Doesn't matter. He's still singing about him. Do they know who Lenny Bruce is? All the people that he kind of mentions, even Lester Bangs died in 1980 or 1982. These are all kind of older or dead people, or you're either of that generation that knows who they are, or you're kind of you have to go look them up, or you have to figure out who they are.
And you couldn't like wiki.
Yeah, in
Lenny Bruce
1987, 89?
88, yeah.
Yeah. You either know who Lenny Bruce is, or Lester Bangs, or
you don't.
Leonard Brezhnev.
Did it say that any of it was just more placeholder words? Because I've heard Michael Stipe say that his bandmates always wanted him to write enough words for the whole melody.
Oh, I don't know.
He would get lazy, and then, Andy Kaufman in a wrestling match. Yeah. Because he didn't want to write.
That's my favorite lyric.
That's a great lyric.
He didn't want to write 4 syllables.
I don't know. It reminds me of. Did we talk about? I listened to a Weezer podcast, or he was on like Song Exploder. Rivers
I think
Cuomo.
that was the one I was listening.
And he was talking about how he writes songs where he just thinks of phrases, throws them on a spreadsheet, goes in and grabs them, writes the music independently, and just figures out what's like. That is crazy to me too. I'm always in awe of like this sort of songwriting, whether it comes from whichever way it comes together.
Well, this one, if I think of artists being influenced by a different medium and that impacting the result, this almost seems like the equivalent of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper album cover, where you're taking pop culture and taking all these aspects of it and putting it onto a canvas, and these lyrics are the canvas. So.
And Michael Stipe is someone who's known for some fairly obtuse lyrics, I guess.
Yeah.
Or lyrics that are not necessarily maybe kind of obscure the real meaning of the song, or it makes it difficult to really ascertain it. I mean, look at a song like The Sidewinder Sleeps Tonight, where he's got a whole verse that's basically him listing things that he might like to eat, like a candy bar or have some Nescafe.
Do you
I will give $1 to anyone who could sufficiently explain to me what that song is about. So, Jeff, you mentioned the Sgt. Pepper
Yeah.
album cover. On that album cover is my second choice, the other LB.
Lenny Bruce.
Lenny Bruce.
Oh, right on. Cool.
And I want to bring Lenny Bruce up, of course, the controversial stand-up comedian from the 50s and 60s, well known for his fighting censorship and often losing, getting arrested on obscenity charges on several occasions. And I just want to ask a question, and maybe, Jeff, you're the stand-up historian of the group, expert. Was Lenny Bruce funny? Because
Well, he wasn't afraid.
That's true. We
One.
know he was not afraid, but was he actually funny?
He was funny in the way the comedians were expected to be funny then, and then he became important in a way that comedians were never expected to be important. So as a comedian who originated, I think during our readers or listeners, go back and listen to the stand-up comedy, hacky stand-up comedy topics podcast with comedian Murray Valeriano. For most of the history of stand-up comedy, comedians were not expected to be good. They were just expected to have jokes. And so
Right.
Lenny Bruce, who cut his teeth in vaudeville houses and opening for strippers and things like that, did everything a comic was supposed to do, and that was keep the audience from tearing the place to pieces by distracting them with one-liners and jokes. And Lenny Bruce also had a very good dialect bits. A lot of comics in the first half of the 20th century, especially in New York, had material that was based on foreigners and the funny Irish guy or the funny spick guy or the
Right.
funny this or the wop. So he was everything that a comic needed to be, and then he was more than anybody expected. So if that's an answer.
So was he funny?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I find him entertaining. If you ever see Thank You, Masked Man, or
See, now
Come
that's
as a Verb, yeah.
See, the Thank You, Masked Man, to me, my brother, God rest his soul, would play that for me multiple times, trying to get me to appreciate it. And that's of all the stuff my brother tried to turn me on to. That
It's
just
not working.
never stuck. And I went back and listened to it a couple of years ago. And
Your argument is he's not funny.
my argument is, I think that he is someone who is seen more as a hero
Yeah.
and someone who is seen as being respected for what he stood for.
Yeah.
A comedian's comedian, that sort of thing.
Well, not even partially. I think that more so than that, it's some people respect him for the fact that because of what he did and what he went through, other comedians were then able to come forward and have a style of comedy, not just in terms of the vulgarity or obscenities or anything like that. Yes, partially that. But also he had a style of stand-up comedy that was very, I guess, riff-oriented and sort of based on very stream of consciousness,
Yeah.
almost like the lyrics to this song. So someone
In
like
live recordings, the audience is laughing their asses off.
right.
So
I have not, other than the Thank You, Masked Man, I have
Yeah.
not went back and listened to a Lenny Bruce set
yeah,
in
in live
a long
recordings
time.
of his earlier career, until the time he was regaling his audience with the courtroom proceedings
Right.
of his trial, which was boring the shit out of people. You hear the audience visibly or audibly laugh, not audibly go, "Oh, you're really important." They're laughing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Just to me, I just picture him as somebody who you wouldn't have had George Carlin without Lenny Bruce. And if you don't have George Carlin, it's
Yeah.
foundational building block person.
Yeah.
But I mean, Patton Oswalt, no offense, Jeff, basically has like he has an essay. It was actually about Bill Hicks, but he starts it off by saying he doesn't find Lenny Bruce funny.
Yeah.
And if comedians say they find Lenny Bruce funny, they're lying.
Okay.
So Patton Oswalt just called you
Yeah.
a liar.
Well,
is what
you
just
asked,
happened.
was he funny?
What
I'm
a
just
long
saying,
way
like,
for a setup for an insult on you, Jeff.
And but
He took the
goodness, I
scene-
didn't
he
even
took-
have to make it.
You took the scenic route. You could have come down straight down the 5. But no, you went along the coast. You cut in. You let Jeff set it all up, and then you just cut right back in.
And then I let
was brutal.
Then I prefaced it by the Patton Oswalt thing. So it's not even me saying it, Jeff. It's Patton Oswalt who's saying it.
Okay. I'm just saying that people were laughing on the recordings, and they were dead before Patton was born. So maybe.
Do you think it's how well do you think it's aged? Would you guess or would you suspect?
if you said, you know what I think is, it is so removed. I'm trying to think of a way to describe like something that was as innovative then. Freedom of speech is something that in entertainment is something that's very well protected now, and it wasn't protected then.
Sure.
And it wasn't protected in that venue. So now we have people who we wish would shut up when they're so expressive about how they feel and their opinions and things like that. Now, stuff that Lenny Bruce was saying then is the stuff of slam poetry, which we hate now.
Right.
So if a young person were to hear his act now, they would say, oh, there's a guy in my high school who does that at a coffee shop on Friday night.
And here's what's interesting to me about that is me personally don't think it's aged super well. Although I think that what he does, this sort of style of humor, you can draw a pretty direct line. If you want to say slam poetry, I'd say sort of the alt comedians of like the 90s, 2000s. People who were more interested in telling a story that had jokes weaved in instead of necessarily going set up, punchline, set up, punchline, set up, punchline. Having said that, I could listen to The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart all day, and I think that has aged incredibly well, even though I think from a structural standpoint, it's something that's very of its era. Mm-hmm. Versus Lenny Bruce, who for me, I think is someone who structurally, how he approached comedy is very modern, but even beyond that, even taking that into account, I don't think it's aged as well.
You brought up the fact that your brother tried to impress upon you the quality of this entertainer. It made me think of how many people tried to get me to think Frank Zappa was awesome.
Sure.
And based on his musicianship, his innovation, and his edginess was the reason they were trying to impress upon me that isn't this guy great. And all those things didn't get my toe tapping or didn't get me super excited about it. Whereas if you listen to a Beatles record, you can that's been introduced to 3 generations since then, and they all dig it.
And you can sit there with Zappa and go, okay, well, I understand, I appreciate where, in the context, he's important.
Yeah.
I can understand why you talking to a friend, why you would appreciate it. It's just not for me.
Just not for me. I would say Lenny Bruce, like Picasso, learned at a young age to imitate the masters that came before him and dispensed with it more quickly than any artist had to find the new thing.
Sure.
And you might look at a Picasso now and go, my kid could do that because that person doesn't even look like a person. That lady's got 2 eyes on the same side of her nose.
Right.
And then you would be an idiot because you would realize that that was a statement, that was an innovation, and that was something that had never been done before. But
which, to put it in the context of this song, which I'm trying to do with as many of these choices as I can, I think it's easy to look at the Lenny Bruce is Not Afraid and just put that in the context of, well, not afraid of getting arrested or something like that. But to your point, I think he was also not afraid to get up there and try something comedic that no one had done before. And maybe that's a good way to put it, is that he was willing to learn from the masters and then, like a Dolly or somebody, just rip it up and then start all over.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm amazed that this song is also about a stew of influences that were floating around, bumping into each other, like as quickly as I mentioned. I don't know how we got to Lenny Bruce from Sgt. Pepper album cover. So
right.
the Beatles as musicians were very interested in playwrights and novels, poetry and painters and visual artists of the time. And like the Rolling Stones, they were patrons of the arts, and they hired some of the most innovative artists to do their album covers. And so the fact that Lenny Bruce was living in this stew that also included the French New Wave filmmakers and all these things
right.
were floating around then, and he just got in. Talked about it in a place he shouldn't have talked about it. So
right. I just find it interesting that Michael Stipe would include him in his list of references. Like you said, I'm sure it was a lot of this dream that he had, but he's not. I don't think REM songs. I don't think controversial lyrics necessarily.
Yeah.
So
I think Lenny Bruce was doing what Michelle Wolf did at the White Horse Correspondents' Dinner, standing there saying shit that was happening right outside the door, and ruffling the feathers of the establishment who thought that this wasn't the place to talk about it. All right. Michael.
There are two types of people.
Yes.
Those that know all the lyrics to It's the End of the World as We Know It and I Feel Fine, and those who fall off after the second line of the second verse.
Okay.
You get to the point where you're like, all right, that's great. Starts an earthquake. Know what I'm doing. Okay, settling in. Verse 2. I have a hurricane. Listen to yourself churn. World serves its own needs. Oh, boy. Oh, let me just wait till we get back to the chorus. Wait, there's a word that comes out. There we go.
Yeah,
Back
there we
in.
go.
And then you start singing along. My wife, Emily, is a person who knows all the lyrics to the song.
Oh, she does?
Very proud of it.
Oh,
Sat
wow.
down with her friend, Triona Murphy, in her junior year of high school, would re-listen back and forth to the song just to
Wow.
get all the lyrics written. Now, this is before you could go on to like songlyrics.com
Genius or
and
.com, yeah.
just look up the
You
lyrics.
gotta
and-
listen over and over.
But there's
You-
no lyric sheet, I would imagine, in document for this, right?
I don't know, but I'm guessing there isn't. And I'm guessing maybe they didn't even have the CD. Maybe they just had it taped off the radio. But this is a song that you think that you go into it so hot and heavy, and you're like, okay, I know bits and pieces, and then right away it just falls off. And I don't know. It's like a song like Blur's "Girls and Boys"
Sure.
that you start getting into like the chorus for that, and people are just like, I don't even know. It's all over the place. Richard just sitting there
Two
trying.
boys, who meet boys, who two girls like their boys, who two boys.
Yeah,
like
you're
their
close,
girls.
but like,
Right.
this is the
But
song.
you have to think about it. It's not like it's not rolling off of the tongue.
Yeah, I think that sometimes I don't think it's a music snobbery. I think that it is when you love something so much and you want to sing along to it, and a song like this that is kind of so all over the place, isn't really straightforward, is so stream of consciousness that you don't necessarily know what he's saying all the time. So you have to go back and kind of like, you got to really listen to it again. You got to listen to it again. On your 40th listen, you're like, that's what he's saying? He's saying vitriolic, patriotic, slam fight, bright. Like, I didn't know he was saying. And you just keep going back and you keep listening.
And why would anybody say that?
So I'm going to say this is close enough to my third choice that we should just lump this in as
Sure.
a joint choice.
Oh, okay.
Because mine is the line "Operation Rescue is offering alternatives and I decline." Mm-hmm. And I bring that up. It's an interesting line to me because it's not actually in the song. That's just literally how I have heard that lyric for 30 years until I looked it up to do this
Operation
show.
Rescue.
Which and it
Oh,
may-
the offer me solutions?
yeah. The line is, "They offer me solutions, offer me alternatives, and I decline."
What did you think it said?
Operation Rescue is offering alternatives because Operation Rescue back in the 80s, for those of you who don't know, was like this anti-abortion group that was one of their big main things they were doing was trying to get out there and fight Planned Parenthood they were the ones who would have like the pictures of the aborted fetuses outside
Yeah.
of Planned Parenthood. So the lyric made sense, right? As much as any lyrics in that song does.
Yeah.
It's him basically saying, well, fuck you all,
Yeah.
Operation Rescue.
This song might be on the Mount Rushmore of misunderstood lyrics.
And that's my point,
There's
is that
so many,
I
yeah.
guarantee you listening out there, you have a lyric in the song that you are sure of, that you are
Yeah.
dead wrong about. Unless you're someone like Emily, who I'm surprised that they have I wonder if they had like a REM coming to Indianapolis. All you need to do to win is call in and say all of the words correctly. I remember
I'll make
they
sure
would do
she
that
responds on.
K-Rock.
I'll make sure that she responds on Twitter or on like our Facebook group or whatever, and we'll get to the bottom of how she actually got to all of the lyrics.
Because I know that was a popular thing. I know K-Rock would do that. Like if REM was coming, they'd have on Kevin and Bean, they'd have you call in and they would stop the song and then you'd have to immediately say like the next couple of lines of lyrics and
Yeah.
nobody got it right because everybody screwed up a line at some point.
That's
I
funny.
would love it if Michael Stipe was just calling into K-Rock. I think I can win this one, you guys. I think I'm going to do it.
Operation Rescue is Operation.
I mean, we are-
I'm sorry, that's not right. Next caller. I'm Michael
wait.
Stipe.
Yeah,
I mean,
but wait,
we're
I'm
based
actually Michael Stipe.
we're basing these lyrics on something that we're reading on the internet. Man, the internet is all lies. What if he is saying Operation Rescue? We don't know.
Oh yeah, and who knows? I mean, he was a world class mumbler back then, and as somebody who is a world class mumbler myself, I can emphasize with him, especially you take that and then you're singing lyrics at maximum speed. I guarantee, I know, like the Replacements, like Paul Westerberg would sing a different version of the lyrics every night in concert, and it's just whatever the one that happened to be during the recording sessions, that's the one made it.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks is the official version. Who knows? Maybe Michael Stipe has 20 different versions of this song with 20 different lyrics. Who knows?
It's like Pearl Jam's Ledbetter, Yellow Ledbetter,
Right.
Where it's a lot of mumbling, and you're just like, what, he's singing about a body in a body in a bag? I didn't even know. What is he talking about?
Right.
How hard was it to be the cool, deep alternative band back then? Because I think if your competitors were Thompson Twins or like Bon Jovi or something like that, all you'd have to do is just put Leonid Brezhnev in a song, and people go, "Yeah, man, you guys are."
This is kind of right
This is
before
deeper than
they
Hey Jealousy.
kind of took off, though, right? I mean, was this their?
This is around, I think.
It was getting close. It was getting close to, because Out of Time came out.
Well, it's before Out of Time, definitely. But
This was on Document.
It's on Document, and that's the one that also has The One I Love, which was their first, like...
That was a pretty big song.
That was their first, like, mainstream, like, hit.
Yeah.
So this was on the album that kind of broke them through, at least to be like a mainstream rock band, and then Out of Time.
Well, it was this song.
Took off.
It was this song that the radio guys kept having to play over and over, because they're like, people keep requesting it because they have no idea what they're talking about. People just like to sing. They like to scream Leonard Bernstein when you get to that part.
That's the one part everybody. Yeah, the only lyric everybody knows is the first couple of lyrics, and then the Leonard Bernstein.
So, dudes, I think we're at halftime.
We are.
I think we're even more past halftime. But we're going to take a halftime.
We had some. It's like soccer. We had a couple extra minutes for. Had a yellow card. A couple of guys got lightly touched and fell down screaming and holding their ankles. So we had to add a couple of minutes on to the end.
The only this is the Mount Rushmore podcast, the only podcast with flopping, and we are going to invite you to go to iTunes and Stitcher and download, rate, and review our past episodes. We really would like to hear your opinion about the episodes you think we were nailing it and the ones you think we were inscrutably boring, but give us 5 stars regardless. And also, I want to give you something. Hey, come here. I want to give you something. Hey, no, come here. Don't be shy. Come on. No, don't go around the corner. Come here. Since you're like one of the cool people, I can tell, one of the cool listeners of Mount Rushmore podcast, we want to give you something cool. It's a free audiobook download from Audible. That's right, a free 30-day trial that give you the opportunity to check out their service. You could check out Enough Rope with Andrew Denton with the guest Michael Stipe. That's an Audible audiobook with Andrew Denton and Michael Stipe reading. You could check that out, and over 180,000 other titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. I see you in your blousy shirt. I see you. You seem like a guy who likes alternative college rock, right? You're cool. Is that Clove cigarettes? Oh, cool, man. Let me bum one of those. Sweet.
That's a nice vest you've got on there,
That's a cool
Mr. Buck.
silk kind of vest. That's
Yeah.
really cool, man. Are you pegging your trousers? Oh, dude, you're so cool. You know, with Audible, you can download your free audiobook today. Go to audibletrial.com/Rushmore. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Rushmore for your free audiobook. And we've heard we're not the only podcast out there. And so I know we're the only one that matters. But these other ones are pretty good too. So listen to this promo for another podcast.
Hey everyone, my name is Jim Hankey and I'm the host of Vinyl Emergency, a podcast where musicians, producers, comedians, and those who dream up, press, release, or collect vinyl records discuss their relationship with the medium today as well as in their formative youth. Artwork that has stood the test of time, neighborhood record stores we remember, the first albums we ever bought, vinyl's warmth and sound. The tangible object of a vinyl record can bring forth so many intangible memories, and that's what we try to capture on the show. Guests have included Roseanne Cash, Ben Montench of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Brian Stack from Conan and The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Ted Leo, Lily Hyatt, and Dave Porter of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. We've been known to do an episode or two in front of a live audience as well, and we also talk to everyday record collectors about what drives their passion. We even have episodes dedicated to the processes of mastering for vinyl, properly cleaning your records, the feeling of standing in line for hours on record store day, and much more. Tune into Vinyl Emergency however you get your podcasts. Visit us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Vinyl Emergency, or stop by our website, vinylemergency.com.
And we're back. And we want to invite you to go on Facebook and get into the dialogue with us to let us know your favorite LB initial person.
If you have the initials LB, you can
Yeah.
automatically come on this show. We will have you on as a guest. No
Yeah.
questions asked.
Oh, totally.
Lou Bega, come on over. Let us know.
Lou Barigno.
Laura Branigan, you're invited.
I think she's dead.
Oh, dear.
I don't know, but I think she is. At least her career is, am I right?
Oh, jeez. So, yeah, join us in the dialogue. Let us know future episode suggestions you'd like to hear. You can do the same thing on Instagram and Twitter. We'd love to have you follow our handles. Oh, I said it. On the socials.
Laura Branigan, update, died in 2004.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Really?
So her ghost.
Hey,
We've got ghost hanging. I got ghost cat around here. Might as well have a ghost Laura Branigan.
Oh, wow.
at least we didn't kill her.
No, we can't kill someone who's already dead.
Yeah.
Scientific fact.
Yeah. Okay, so we're back, and Richard's gone to his third. So, Michael, what's your third?
If you can pull it off, it's an A+ karaoke song. A lot of guys will
Really?
go up. Oh yeah. If you can knock this song out of the
Gotta
park,
kill it.
either you have to know it like we
like
mentioned,
Emily by
like
heart.
Emily, or you got to be a really good reader and hope that whoever translated it did a really good job.
And that the screen is advancing fast enough.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
That's the thing that
you
got
got
to
you got to get
up.
it. You got to get a good system. You got to be a good reader,
Yeah.
which I'm not. I've discovered as I'm reading books that are meant for ages 0 to 12 months.
Oh,
It throws me up all the time
Yeah.
when I have to say like the Purple Pig or like things like that.
Yeah.
I could not do the song.
yeah.
This is a song that I think a lot of people go into thinking they can do.
Uh-huh.
It's like white guys rapping. Just
Yeah.
don't go up if you don't know the song. But if you do, it's like a crowd killer.
Yeah.
Because people know it. They know those little bits and pieces that they can like sing along. It's the
Right.
Leonard Bernstein. It's all of those little bits and pieces that spike in the song that
Oh,
are
yeah,
so
yeah.
great that people know
Uh-huh.
that they think they can sing. It's like, what's that? Is it Dancing Queen? That's a really ultimately depressing song. The ABBA song Dancing Queen, or
Yeah, that's fairly depressing.
there's a couple of them. There's a couple that like
There's your
Fernando's pretty
Fernando,
different.
yeah. That's another one.
there's a few that like people like to go up and sing, but they really only know the chorus of, and then you're just like they don't know what they
Yeah.
don't know what they're doing. But this song, man, if you can kill it, A+.
Yeah.
You're getting a standing O.
Well, the only problem with this song, this is a karaoke song that has a very long outro.
Yeah,
that
that's
does
true.
the same thing over and over again.
That's true.
And whether you are, then you have to make the decision whether you're just doing the Michael Stipe part at the end, or if you're going to get a little creative and do the Mike Mills "Time I Had Some Time Alone," or maybe you can get a buddy up there to help you out with that part. But yeah, you're kind of stuck there at the end. That's one of those ones.
At the end, though, you can just walk off the stage and you just let
Yeah,
the
let's hear it for
DJ.
Glenn.
You
Glenn.
kind of got to make eye contact with the DJ and be like, "We're
Yeah.
done here."
You can practice though.
Whiskey sour, not paying any attention.
And no tension, trying to flirt with the bartender. Yeah.
You can practice though on iTunes. They have the karaoke version
Oh.
of this song that you can just listen to.
Oh, rad.
So if you just want the audio only of "It's the End of the World," I should know it, and I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
fine. Man, make up your own lyrics. Practice. Start reading.
Do you feel like when this comes on, people think like, I don't know, is there going to be a test on this? It seems like a college course or something. Oh,
Junior
there's-
college at
Yeah,
least. Yeah.
there's so many references in this one. I also think the way I would drink and do karaoke would never inspire me to do this song. Drinking always just made me think, well, you can do a real dumb thing. Don't do the smart thing. Don't try to do that thing. But other people drink and then they said, hold my beer and get ambitious. So I think, Richard, this is you rounding it out.
It
here.
is. And Michael, you mentioned depressing songs just a minute ago.
Yeah.
And my last one is Being Fine with the End of the World as We Know It. Because that's what ultimately this song is about. And, as much as you said, Michael, this is a song that's fun to sing at full volume and boof about 90% of the lyrics, even if you have the karaoke. But guess what? It's a pretty depressing song when you actually read some of the lyrics and just get to the idea of it. In fact, I'm not 100% sure this song isn't about depression. I think it could be when you do a closer reading of the lyrics. If nothing else, I think the most optimistic spin you can put on it is that it's a song about, well, you know what? Things are screwed up always, all the time.
Yeah.
So, you know what? You might think that right now is the end of the world, but people 20 years ago thought it was Lenny Bruce. They thought Lenny Bruce was the end of the world.
When you open up the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, it starts with saying, this is the end of the world as we know it. Everything's so screwed up, it can't get any worse.
Yeah, we cannot possibly go further down than this. And, you know, I guess the optimistic reading of it is being okay with it being the end of the world, because then you can restart and kind of start over again. The pessimistic reading of that, of course, is everything is so miserable, I just want it all to go away. Which is why I kind of lean towards that this may be a song somewhat about depression. There's at least elements of that to the lyrics. But I don't know. Everyone remembers the song as a Liszt song.
Yeah.
But as we just talked about, the majority of the song, it really is tied to that one lyric, that it's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to get at what does that mean in the context of this song? And I think, like I said, there's an optimistic reading of it, and there's a negative reading of it. And I don't think, the Mike Mills part at the end, the time I had some time alone, I mean, that could just be just like a funny little thing to have him sing there, but it could also be sort of this, hey, I've been almost, inundated with all of these facts and figures and characters and people.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd just like to chill the F out for a while.
I think I'm more inclined to agree with Jeff on this in terms of it's always the worst time for someone. There's always horrible things happening to someone, and it's kind of about just like surviving it.
Yeah.
Just dealing. There's always going to be the worst possible thing happening at any given time. You could probably go year by year and say, look at all these 10 to 100 things that are trying to kill us that are the worst things in the world, and then how do you deal with that?
Sure.
And I think that, like, whether he'd written a song in 1987 or written it in 2007 or written it in 1967 or whatever, there's always going to be these things that are just world-ending. The world is constantly telling you, the news is constantly telling you that the world is ending, that everything's on fire, everything's going to be on fire, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And
it is kind of a punk posture to be kind of fiddling while Rome burns, or to be saying, everybody run, the homecoming queen's got a gun, or this is
I mean, they're a band that toured with Black Flag all over the place.
Yeah.
They got to be good friends because they were always playing like one spot, one night after each other.
But this was also the end of kind of the beginning of the end of the Cold War and still Reagan era. So there was Star Wars and nukes and all that kind of stuff.
We can all agree that right now
this is the worst.
This really is the end of the world, right?
It's the worst possible time. Have you been on Twitter lately?
Yeah.
Not very good.
Michael Stipe ain't even singing anymore.
Exactly. That's
a bad
that is
shit
something that I didn't know how to bring up.
Oh.
I think it is extremely... I don't understand when a musician or an artist retires.
Oh.
Like what? I don't understand. Just like
at 65, it's mandatory retirement age for most Americans.
How someone who is so prolific, who is, they almost put out an album a year, it seemed, for a good 10 years, and then you just get to the point where you're just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm no longer like they hung it up in 2009, 10, something like that.
Yeah.
So for 7-8 years, he hasn't been writing any music. Hasn't been putting out any music.
Well, he's done a couple of things. He's had a couple of solo songs.
Solo songs. I mean,
he did a collab with Fisher Spooner.
Well, I'm not. Anyone is welcome to do whatever they want with their lives, and if they choose not to do whatever, I find it amazing when someone has done so much and put out so much important music, important stuff that somehow they just stop and they're just like, oh, I'm not. I understand when someone moves on to just doing stuff on their own solo. And like you said, I guess there's, I haven't done any research. I haven't certainly listened to it. When someone puts out a few songs or doing bits and pieces, I'm just...
Yeah, he's not doing anything substantial.
It's interesting to me when that happens to...
Yeah.
But he's somebody who I think got more interested in the visual arts, if I know about Michael Stipe. I think he started doing. I think he's had like a film production company, and started to get more interested in that side of things. So I think he's doing stuff, but maybe he's just sort of, I don't know. Maybe you just run out of ideas. Maybe you have a certain reservoir and
That's it.
and that's it. And maybe at some point, if you start tapping into it,
He might be like if not the J.D. Salinger, like the Bill Murray of music, where he doesn't especially need to or like to do it in the circumstances that other people want him to do it.
Yeah.
And I can see it with today's music industry has always been the worst industry in the world. And to do it now, you think, well, who's going to listen to this, and what's the context, and what do I have to do? If I ever do make a record, what do I have to do to get it out there? And do I really want to do all that bullshit? So, yeah, that's but it does seem like in order to succeed in music, it has to be part of your blood and your daily lifestyle and your livelihood. You have to it's almost like seeing a shark stop swimming. What's wrong?
Yeah.
You are your art.
God, that's such a good analogy.
I make good analogies.
Yeah.
That's all I do. That's all I do. Okay, so are we indeed done? Is it the end of the podcast as we know it? No,
you
it's
shouldn't
not.
feel fine about it.
I don't feel fine. Michael Whitfield.
My last choice is the last words from like the final verse, which is when he kind of asks, right?
Oh,
Okay.
I love, and then it kind of tails off into kind of the chorus over
Yeah.
and over again. I love that all of this stream of consciousness ends with
him answering.
him asking a question to like the audience, to the listener, like, you get what I'm going for, right? Right. And then him answering again. I love that all of it comes down to this question and answer of like, man, this guy was just telling you his dreams, and then you just gotta kind of have to nod and be like, yeah, man.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking. Oh yeah, I was at that party where all the LBs were there too, but I don't know. What
Yeah.
is he talking about? I don't know. But I love that those were like he uses that a couple of times. He uses like the kind of repetition of words a few times. He rhymes needs with needs at some point, which if you can rhyme the two words together, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Light a candle, light a motive, step down, step down. He does it a few times in it, and then by the time you get to the last two words of the final verse, and he's just like, right. I love that's my favorite part of the song, as opposed to screaming out Leonard Bernstein.
Yeah.
It's just this. He assumes that you know what he's talking about. Maybe he doesn't know what he's talking about, but I like how that's the end of it.
It does seem like a very authoritative monologue until that moment where you realize, oh, I was in a dialogue with Michael Stipe, and he wanted me to confirm all that stuff. I got to say, I missed out on some of those words.
It does sound like someone kind of coked up at a party, to kind of coming up to you and just rambling on and on. There, right?
Sure,
right, yeah.
I totally agree.
I also don't understand that about songwriting. How do you choose when to end a song full stop and when you decide to let a song's chorus or the music just
fade out.
or the fade out? When do you make that decision? And I'm constantly in awe of like songwriting in general. How do you know when to just like, man, we're just gonna let this play out? And how many times how long in concert do you let it play out for too?
And in concert though, don't they have to kind of like, you have to tag it though? In concert, you can't just go, you can't turn down the volume on the PA in the concert hall and just let it fade out.
Yeah, they kind of like hit it with a sting.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and then they kind of also let the audience drive it.
Yeah.
I think also they would use this as like the closer of like their set before they went to like an encore.
Pre-encore
They'd use it-
closer,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so they'd kind of just walk off stage and
one by one kind of thing until you left with Bill Berry just sort of playing drums.
yeah, probably. Yeah.
Probably.
Guys, that was pretty amazing. I want to thank you for your very concerted and obvious effort and intellectual prowess that you applied towards making these choices. And here's what I dug. I really liked, Richard, how you intellectualized it, and Michael, how you kind of emotionalized it, thinking of this song in terms of your relationship with it. Choosing the karaoke song observation was really fun, and then realizing that right at the end, it was a dialogue, or it was something that Michael Stipe actually asked you a question. So that was a neat observation. So the karaoke is one of the choices, and the right is a choice. And then Richard, you did a great job of placing this in historical context and summoning up a figure who is mentioned in the song and his relationship with his audience in terms of a Pied Piper of sorts of the value and importance of entertainment, and that's Leonard Bernstein, so I choose that. And then you and I got in a fun discussion about Lenny Bruce, so I want to go with that. And I think that's a fascinating topic to even bring up in regards to this song. Would a person listen back to the song and think, was that song good, or was it a list song just like Love Shack?
Right.
Or
We Didn't Start the Fire?
Or We Didn't Start the Fire.
We Didn't Start the Fire. Maybe we should do a podcast about that. Could be upcoming. So we went 2 and 2 this time around, and
Yeah, but my 2 were better,
wow.
I think.
You didn't start the argument. You were always
I was
turning.
always turning since the world's been burning.
Thanks for listening, everyone. This has been the Mount Rushmore podcast. As always, I'm Jeff.
I'm Richard.
And Michael.